Okay, I'm packing for another trip, so I want to walk you through my 2026 minimal travel camera bag and setup. Let's get right into it. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Desmond, and I want to walk you through my current minimal travel camera bag setup. Obviously, I do a ton of travel for this channel for work and just for fun, and I feel like I've really dialed down my overall carry options over the last few years, and that's what I want to walk you through today. So let's start with the bag itself. This is the all-new Grams 28 Seeker backpack, and hopefully you can see here it's a pretty solid size, and yes, it holds all this gear plus a lot more. I'm not sponsored by Grams 28 in this particular video. They just launched this collaboration, and it's really designed with creators in mind, which I do like a lot. I like the build quality. It's pretty heavy, empty, I will say that. So if I was going with a maximum camera carry setup, I would not use this backpack. I would use something that is just inherently lighter. This backpack in itself is already quite weighty because it is made from all leather, as you can see here. It's just big. It holds all my gear. It's got the right pockets in place and the organization in place. All the zippers are weather sealed, which is really nice. And the best thing about it is when I open this up, you can see all the space that I have in this bag right here. And of course, this kind of Velcro-y area lets me add the Grams 28 camera cubes. I actually tend to just travel without camera cubes, and I just use little dividers because my camera setup is pretty minimal now. I don't need all the extra organization. Overall, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of backpacks in general for travel carry, but when you need something that is just optimized to hold your stuff and still look relatively good, Grams 28 tends to check the boxes really well for me. So the Seeker backpack, I'm sure there are a lot of videos online with a full breakthrough, but I'm just going to show you it briefly. So with the bag out of the way, let's talk about the cameras that I carry. I have 4 cameras that I bring with me on every trip, and yes, that is keeping it relatively minimal, but I'll show you in a second. So let's just start with the main camera. This is the biggest change that I made this year, is switching over to Nikon. This is my Nikon ZR, and overall I've been really happy with it. I've done several trips with it. I've traveled to 5 different countries with this camera, filming in R3D, taking photos, checking out and testing all the different codecs to get an idea of how this thing shoots, and overall I'm really happy with it. It does exactly what I need when I need it. It is just as quick now that I've kind of mastered the process as my Sony cameras, so I feel really comfortable with this camera in all different scenarios. First of all, I mean, this is the biggest piece. I've talked about this before. I think all modern cameras should move to this gigantic 4-inch rear flippy screen. This thing is absolutely incredible, but again, no viewfinder on this. So for those of you that are die-hard photographers or just need a viewfinder, this is not the camera for you. I film primarily video these days. So this has been fantastic. The other thing, I'm not going to talk about too many specs here, plenty of videos. This thing has a 24 megapixel sensor. It shoots in Red RAW. It shoots in H.265. It shoots in NRAW. So there are a lot of codec options for the camera. I primarily shoot in Red RAW just to maximize the output, and that's ultimately why I paid for this camera. And the other thing that I will say, from a photography perspective, this thing performs great. Switching over to photo mode is just a click of a button, and I've had no problems or issues at all with the photographs that come out of this camera. And this has been the perfect hybrid travel video and photo camera for me in 2026. And I'm hoping it only gets better with firmware updates, because they are coming. We've seen some improvements. Overall, this thing has been great. On the camera itself, I am using Sony lenses still. That's the other reason why it felt so easy to switch over to the Nikon system, is I don't really have to give up my entire Sony ecosystem. I have a ton of E-mount lenses that I love, and that I think are slightly better than some of the other options out there for Z-mount. So on the camera itself, I've got the Megadapt adapter. I'm also using the Sony 16-25 f2.8 G lens. I really like this lens. I think it's the perfect focal length for the type of video content creation I do. 16 is wide enough for, you know, nice views of the hotel, establishing shots, and then I can punch into 25 and still get some close-up images, B-roll, all that good stuff. This has been a great lens. It's light, it's compact, it fits the overall aesthetic and size of the ZR. So generally speaking, this is a really well-balanced package for me, and this lens lives on this camera most of the time. And of course, on here is a Peter McKinnon Polar Pro VMD 2 to 5 stops. I think it works great, 67mm thread, which again works on the other lens that I carry. This is my 35mm f1.4 G Master. This is primarily what I switch over to when I'm traveling for low light. So once it gets dark out, switch over to the 1.4 G Master, which is fantastic. Also my favorite lens for photography, street photography, portrait photography, just standard images overall. So when I'm looking for more reach and more subject separation, I will just switch it over to the 35. And this is my entire main camera setup. Next on my list is from one of the sponsors of this channel, and that is the Skyrover S1 drone. So I think a lot of you that are watching this know that, you know, a lot of the DJI drones are now banned, and a lot of the new products from DJI are not coming to the US. So I did want to find an alternative that could give me similar, if not better, image quality in a very similar form factor for a pretty solid price tag. Right now, this thing goes for like 290 bucks, so it's under $300. Anyways, the reason why I use the Skyrover S1 is, first, it is ultra compact. This thing is under 250 grams, which means no need to register with the FAA. And because of that, it's actually quite powerful. So this thing uses a 1/2-inch Sony CMOS sensor. It delivers 4K up to 60 frames per second on video. You can do 8K photographs as well. And for me, I'm not a great drone flyer. I like how beginner friendly this is. Honestly, I just power it up, plug in the remote, and then using the iPhone app, 1-button takeoff, 1-button landing. Image quality on this thing is pretty solid overall, especially in the right lighting situations. And I think this thing performs well in most scenarios. So even flying it on really windy days, this is level 5 wind resistance. Yes, it struggles a little bit on like high winds when you're really high up, but I think the image still looks pretty solid. The other thing that I like about it, very similar to my DJI drones, is the kind of built-in cinematic filming style. So I can just use the controller with the app. I can automatically do a one-touch orbit shot, or a rocket shot, or a droney, or any number of predefined modes I can activate with a single button. And that for me is great because I can just set this drone up, get it off the ground in like a minute, get my shot, wrap it up, and then head out. The other nice thing about it is forward and downward sensors for obstacle avoidance. Again, I'm not a great drone flyer. I'm just trying to get really quick shots and then move on with my day. This thing has made it really, really convenient. And the other thing I do keep in the bag is extra batteries. So this pack came with 3 batteries overall. That gives me about 120 minutes, 40 minutes of flight on each battery. That's more than enough for the type of shooting that I do, which means when I throw this up into the air, I'm personally never worried about running out of batteries, just because I can probably get the shot I need in about 20 minutes or so, and I've always got extra batteries with me. And like I mentioned before, one of the reasons why I do keep this with me in my travel bag is the price. It's about 289 bucks right now, under $300. For me, as someone who is not a great drone flyer, I repeat again, crashing this drone isn't as big a problem for me versus like having a $1,000 drone that I just don't know how to handle, or if I lost it, man, I would be very upset. I don't feel as bad if I lose this drone getting the perfect shot As long as I can recover the footage, I'm fine. But for under 300 bucks, yeah, it's great. It's durable, it's light, and it's a must-have for anyone who just wants to add drone shots to their kit. So moving on to other cameras, I use the DJI Nano a lot. I really like it. It's compact, it's tiny. Battery life is sufficient for what I use it for. No overheating problems, also based on my shooting style, where I just turn this on. I think the longest I've ever used this was probably for about a 25-minute long clip. I was hiking to a waterfall in Sydney and it was incredibly warm out. No overheating problems. And again, footage looked great. I just mounted it to my hat, went on with my life, continued to struggle through that hike. And at the end, plenty of battery left, no overheating. Footage was great. And of course, hat mount, chest mount, really, really easy to set up. I like this tiny little camera for POV shots. The other thing I really like about it is it shoots in D-Log-M. So all my other DJI cameras, I can color grade them to match my Nikon. I can color grade them to match the other DJI cameras in my roster. Yeah, it just fits in my pocket, fits in a tiny little organizational pocket in the Grams 28 backpack. It's like it's never even there. Continuing on to DJI cameras, this is my DJI Action 6. This is the primary action camera that I use. It has a 1/1.1 inch sensor, so better image quality, battery life, and just overall functionality than the Osmo Nano, and that's to be expected because it's their flagship action camera. But I really like this camera a lot. I think the performance on this, the image quality is really, really great. Variable aperture from 2 to 4. Battery life on this is also really impressive. I have a 3 battery pack, so I never run into any issues. I also have the battery tripod attachment handle as well. But overall, whenever I'm in a situation where, again, like if we go back to Sydney, during that hike to the waterfall, there's water everywhere. I can't bring out my ZR. I'm not pulling out the Osmo Pocket 3. The Action 6 is exactly what I use because it's the best possible image quality in a form factor that is almost indestructible. So this thing comes with me everywhere because now I find myself in situations where I just need something sturdier than the ZR and definitely the OP3, but still delivers the kind of image quality I want for this channel. And that's it for the cameras. The next, very, very minimal audio setup. I just bring my DJI Mic 3s. This is my favorite setup so far. It brings in all the things that I love from the DJI Mic 2 in the same tiny package as mostly the Mic Minis. But you can see here, the transmitter is absolutely tiny. I'm using the Mic Mini right now actually, but the Mic 3, tiny transmitter, really great audio quality. I can choose between the different voice tones. And then of course, the receiver here can be plugged into my phone. It can be mounted to my Nikon ZR, and probably overkill, but the Nikon ZR does film 32-bit float internally. So as soon as I plug this receiver into my Nikon ZR via the 3.5mm jack, I'm getting 32-bit float recording directly into the video files, but the Mic 3s also record internally into the transmitter's 32-bit float as well. So I've got a 32-bit float backup track, which again is fantastic. The other reason why I only bring one mic pack for all of these cameras is these Mic 3s connect wirelessly to the Action 6 and the Nano. So again, I can film POV action camera shots while still having professional audio, and it keeps my entire setup super, super, super minimal. This, I like it a lot. And I won't go into too much crazy detail aside from extra batteries, maybe a portable light, and like SD card or CF Express Type B card readers. That's it for my minimal travel camera setup. Of course, I've always got my iPhone 17 Pro Max on here. I've done plenty of videos on how capable this particular camera is with the Blackmagic app, the colors, the footage. It can do kind of everything I need it to do when none of the other cameras serve their purpose, right? It is the perfect gap filler in terms of cameras. It's always in my pocket. It's really inconspicuous when you're filming. Everyone is used to people having their phones out filming content. So I don't get any crazy looks. Sometimes I still get looks when I've got the Osmo Nano mounted, but that's just a personal thing. I just don't like the attention. Anyways, the iPhone 17 Pro Max though, really, really solid camera. And that's it. I think that was the whole point of this video. It wasn't designed to be long because it's a minimal setup. Yes, I will bring a M4 MacBook Pro with me for editing on the go, but oftentimes I don't even bring the laptop. It's just the cameras, film everything, and when I get back to my studio, that's when I deal with the footage, deal with the editing. But overall, I mean, this is a really, really tiny, minimal setup. Half the cameras can fit in my pockets. Funny enough, even this Skyrover drone fits in a pocket if you want it to. So this is the largest camera in the setup. Anyways, that's it for this video. I'll leave links in the description, potentially a discount code for the Skyrover. It's already pretty cheap. I would definitely check that out. If you guys like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more videos just like this. I will catch y'all in the next one.